Top 5, born Hassan Ali in 1998 to Somali immigrant parents, grew up in Toronto's Lawrence Heights, a neighborhood that locals call the jungle. Isolated and neglected, this maze of crumbling multi-story townhouses and low-rise complexes that are part of Toronto's public housing stood in stark contrast to the middle-class suburbia that surrounded it. Known for poverty, drug deals, and gunfire, Jungle is home to a large community of immigrant families from the Caribbean, South America, Somalia, and other African countries. Immigrants who were all clinging to their own version of the Canadian dream. And it was here, on the basketball courts, that Hassan earned his nickname Top 5, a boast that everything he did on the court was Top 5. As a student at Vaughan Road Academy, the same high school that Drake attended, a young Top 5 would get into music from early on, but he wouldn't take it seriously until one fateful day. When Top 5 was 15 years old, he would attend Drake's first annual OVO Bounce tournament. Drake was in attendance, and at the time, the Detroit Pistons star Brandon Jennings' team took the win. And when Jennings ripped off his jersey to celebrate, Top 5 mimicked him mid-photo op, sending the crowd into a frenzy and catching Drake's attention. That spontaneous moment sparked a friendship and pivoted Top 5's path towards music. In 2014, when Top 5 was just 16 years old, he would drop the song Shirt Off Shorty, doubling down and basing his personality on the gimmick of having his shirt off. On any block, I'll have you know. This Chicago drill-inspired track racked up 5,000 views in just a few weeks. But then, months later in December, Drake would make an Instagram post of him watching Top 5's video, together with the caption, "Back in the 6, shout out to Top 5, which would catapult the track into local success in Toronto. With a viral song in his pocket and the co-sign from the biggest rapper in the world, the 16-year-old Top 5 would turn his 15 minutes of fame into a burgeoning music career. He dropped out of school in 2015, doubling down with the song Hall of Fame alongside Toronto underground rap icon Robin Banks, who belonged to the Was Gang from the north side of Jane and Finch, part of the infamous Driftwood Crips, which are also known for rappers like Presser, his brother Boondog, and the late Houdini. Then came Shirt Off on Any Block, with a music video filmed in the heart of the jungle.
You guys have the same sound. Like, I don't want to sound like The Weeknd, I don't want to sound like Drake. I want to sound like myself. You're never gonna make it out if you don't sound like yourself. I grew up in Toronto, but I don't like this in the winter. I like the summer when my shirt comes off.
A track that even the Toronto police were enjoying. Meanwhile, Drake would keep the cosigns coming, shouting out Top 5 in the track Grammys from his 2016 album Views. But unfortunately, just as Top 5 plotted his family's escape from the jungle,
started rapping, I didn't know it was gonna blow up. A couple more songs, I'll have a house in Brattle Path. That's my goal, have a house in Brattle Path, get my mom out the hood, and get my family out the hood.
The streets would strike back. Given the nickname of Top 5's neighborhood, the jungle, it's probably no surprise then that gangs have had a strong hold of the area for a long time. For decades, this neighborhood has been home to the so-called Jungle City Bloods gang, and more recently, particularly a set under them called the GGGs, or Go Get 'em gang. Originally called the First Comes Family, online rumors tie the set's formation to a March 2008 tragedy, an unsolved murder of an 18-year-old Ahmed Abdikarim, son of a Somali soccer star and alleged brother of a GGG member named Jason. Ahmed's killing was even caught on camera, but this murder was never prosecuted, and the lack of evidence became a flashpoint for retaliatory violence. While no convictions followed, the incident brought together the GGGs, with notorious members in their ranks like Flipper, aka Saeed the Postman Mohiuddin 100, Moneyboy, Century, aka Samatar Mohiuddin, Ahmed's brother Jason GGG, aka Ibrahim Abdikarim, Styles, aka Saeed Osman, a GGG affiliate who's currently on the Canada's Most Wanted list, and among them, a young Top 5. The jungle was part of a broader war dividing Toronto's boroughs. On one side, Jane, Driftwood, and Lawrence Heights, and on the other side, territories like Regent Park, Falstaff, and Rexdale. Part of this conflict was GGG's feud with the Falstaff Crips, based in the northwest Toronto's Jane-Falstaff corridor, their turf consisting particularly of 3 large high-rises, numbers 20, 30, and 40, which is why the gang is also sometimes called 234. The Falstaff Crips are known for guys like the rappers 9 and LO, who have both received some notable fame in the Toronto drill scene. While Top 5 and the GGGs have also clashed with several other rival sets like Bloods from the Connections or South Jane, represented by artists like NHSJJ and Doovie, who have both been some of the most popular drill artists in the Toronto scene. On the other hand, there's also been gang sets who GGG have been close with, most notably being the previously mentioned Was Gang, with Top 5 himself being very close to their rappers YG, Presser, and Presser's big brother Boondog, all of whom were recently shining prominently in Brandon Buckingham's vlog about the gang war in Toronto. Definitely go and check that out.
Toronto, this is Jane and Finch, Was Gang.
Alexandra Park, PO, MG Furrow.
Content creators get shot in their head out here.
Come around here, you might not leave.
Jane and Finch.
What began as a simmering tension in the late 2000s between these different Toronto factions would escalate by 2018 into Toronto's bloodiest year on record, and at the center of many of these conflicts will be none other than the GGGs. For example, in June 2016, two gunmen would open fire on 20-year-old Nathan Lee in Jamestown near Finch Avenue and Martin Grove Road in broad daylight. Security cameras would capture the chilling attack, which left Lee hospitalized, but fortunately alive.
A sunny morning and 20-year-old Nathan Lee is heading out for a bike ride, but steps from his home, Lee is gunned down at point-blank range. The video released by police today shows the two suspects approach. Both are armed with handguns. It's hard to believe anyone could survive such close-range shots, but Lee's mother says her son is expected to recover.
Police quickly linked the shooting to an ongoing feud between the Young Buck Killers, a Driftwood Crip subset, and the Rexdale Jamestown Crips. This was a rivalry already stained by tragedy, as just weeks earlier, a pregnant woman was killed in a drive-by, her baby delivered by an emergency C-section, only to die a month later, something that the YouTuber Six Tales covered in great detail on his channel. Lee's shooting occurred allegedly just days after the rapper Presser was assaulted in jail, and the investigators believed that this was payback. But the plot thickened when Lee's mother identified one shooter as Shamori YG White, a Young Buck Killers member and Top5's close friend. YG would actually flee to the US, setting the example for others to do the same in the future, while his alleged accomplice, later revealed as Jason from GGG, stayed in the shadows. But then, in March 2017, Jason was arrested and charged with attempted murder and discharging a firearm. YG, who had been on the run in the US, spending a lot of time in Los Angeles, would ultimately be caught in Columbus, Ohio, and brought back to Canada, formally charged with attempted murder. However, due to a combination of good lawyers and the witnesses refusing to testify, both men would face no charges. YG would later taunt the failed prosecution with his track Blue Tea, which flaunted the attire matching the shooter's description in the surveillance video, with him rapping that he's on his block, shooting people in his blue tee. But in April 2024, Jason's luck ran out, as he was gunned down in Toronto's fashion district in a shooting that would leave two others injured. Though police hesitated to call it targeted, graffiti at the scene spelling out GGGK, or Go Get 'em Gang Killers, sparked speculation of a hit. But the GGG's reign of terror wasn't just limited to the greater Toronto area, and in another wild case, in August 2018, 27-year-old Abdi Sluggy Piercy, a mid-level drug dealer all the way in Edmonton, Alberta, was gunned down after he pulled into a parking lot, with the sounds of this shooting being chillingly captured on a nearby dash cam. Police called the shooting targeted, revealing that the victim was well known to law enforcement.
When police arrived Sunday night, the focus was on a BMW where the man was gunned down. The building was roped off.
And then we heard more gunshots,
with area residents wondering what happened.
Sluggy had allegedly been a drug dealer who clashed with a criminal organization expanding throughout several provinces, a nod to GGG's rumored reach across Canada. Though GGG as a gang wasn't officially tied to this murder, rumors swirled and the crew leaned into them, dissing Sluggy every chance they got, like in the 2021 song Movie, where Top5 raps that when he's in Edmonton, he's smoking on Sluggy. A month after the murder of Sluggy in September 2018, 4 suspects would be charged, including Century from the GGGs. Police were able to build their case with extensive video surveillance that showed that the two shooters arrived in the parking lot and waited for Sluggy to arrive, and as soon as he did, the shooters got out of their car, got close, and opened fire, with one of the shooters not just emptying his clip, but returning to the getaway vehicle, and then returning to Sluggy's lifeless body and continuing firing, before finally hopping in the car and getting away. Police confirmed Century as one of the two shooters, but despite what the judge called insurmountable evidence, Century too would miraculously beat his case. The GGGs were a terror in the streets and Teflon in the courtrooms, and this untouchable gang would still stay active during the 2020s, escalating their already infamous reign of terror. In March 2022, chaos would erupt at a north central Edmonton lounge when gunmen unleashed gunfire into a crowd, described as one of the city's worst mass shootings. The attack left 28-year-old Imbert Georgia, a young father and husband, deceased and 6 others injured. Authorities would quickly recover a vehicle linked to the shooting, and Edmonton police moved quickly, arresting 2 suspects, GGG members 100 and Bosch, after a police helicopter tracked their fleeing car, capturing their attempt to discard firearms out the window, which were later retrieved by police dogs. Investigators confirmed that 60 to 70 shots were fired into the crowd, calling it miraculous that more people weren't killed. A third suspect, another GGG affiliate, Saeed Styles Osman, would evade capture, later landing on Canada's 25 most wanted list with a $50,000 bounty out for him. As the investigation deepened, police identified 2 additional suspects, one of those being none other than Century from GGG, who would get arrested on December 3, 2023 in a separate drug drug trafficking and firearms investigation with more than $185,000 worth of drugs and firearms seized. This included $50,000 worth of cocaine and 2.5 kilograms of fentanyl worth $90,000. Extradited to Edmonton, he faced the same charges as 100 first-degree murder and 7 counts of aggravated assault. Then, in May 2024, Bosch would strike a plea deal, confessing that he drove the shooters, that all 4 men had firearms, and that they were after someone they knew, and he would get 8 years for manslaughter, a fraction of the potential life sentences that his gang members still face. These are just a few of the cases tied to the Go Get 'em gang's murderous reign, but for Top 5 himself, the gang war in Toronto would from early on become much more personal, when he would end up losing his own brother to the streets. On the 30th of July 2017, Top 5's brother, 21-year-old Saeed Foolish Ali, would leave his apartment in the jungle to go and grab some snacks. Around midnight, he would split from his friends, and only moments later, as he was walking in front of a local drug mart, a car would pull up next to him and someone inside would open fire, shooting Foolish in his thigh and severing an artery. Sometime later, police would find him bleeding out on the asphalt, and sadly, he would later pass away at the hospital. It's not clear whether or not Foolish was a full-fledged gang member, but his family association to Top 5's GGG crew had allegedly made him a target in the streets, and following his death, GGG was ready to go after anyone who dissed Foolish, and they would waste no time in retaliating. Less than 48 hours after Foolish's murder, on August the 1st, a 23-year-old Adrian Scars Milligan, an alleged member of a rival crew called Shots Up Mafia, aka SUM, would become Toronto's 30th homicide of 2017. Witnesses near Bathurst and St. Clair saw Scars arguing with 2 men before gunfire suddenly erupted, hitting Scars in the chest in a gas station parking lot. Witnesses would then see 2 suspects running northbound on Raglan Avenue while holding a handgun, one of these suspects being around 5'6" in height, this interestingly matching Top 5's relatively short frame. Reddit sleuths would later point out that Top 5 had allegedly posted RIP Foolish on the very same day that Scars died, while also mentioning a statement that Top 5 allegedly made saying that he stepped for his brother. GGG members like Flipper have also claimed Scars as a GGG body, with lyrics hinting at Scars being killed as direct get back for Foolish. When SUM members would pay tribute to Scars online, a GGG member would do some trolling by commenting with the prayer hand emojis, which would be met by a harsh response back, as the SUM member would tell him to go and dig his friend up in response. Online sleuths have generally theorized that Scars was killed over mistaken blame for Foolish's murder, with the GGGs first thinking that SUM had something to do with it, but unfortunately, they would eventually realize their mistake and decide to slide again. As is often the case in modern day gang wars, it would allegedly be a social media post that would light the fuse, as a masked figure could be seen in a video stomping a shopper's drug mart bag, this being seen as a direct diss towards Foolish, who had been killed outside that same store. Allegedly, despite the mask, this person's identity wouldn't stay hidden, as rumor leaked to GGGs that the culprit was a 16-year-old named Hanad Clutch Ali, an alleged member of the Falstaff Crips, who lived in one of the 3 high-rise buildings that the gang claimed. Then, in August 2019, Clutch's life would end where he lived, as he would be gunned down in the stairwell of 30 Falstaff Avenue, after which 3 suspects fled in a dark sedan, leaving him bleeding out.
Hanid Abdullahi's mother, relatives, and friends are overcome with grief as the body of the 16-year-old is carried out of the Toronto Community Housing Building where Hanid lived his entire life and where the teen was fatally shot multiple times early this morning.
I don't get it! He was a kid! 16 years old!
According to authorities, only hours later, Top 5 posted on Instagram saying, "Karma is the most patient gangster ever." By November, Top 5 would double down on his drill rap persona, dropping the song Drill Some More with GGG member Flipper. This track being a clear message referencing these back-to-back murders, with 5 rapping that even if they catch one body, they're still planning on catching more, a chilling reminder of what was to come. However, just months after the release of Drill Some More, in March 2020, Flipper would be arrested for the 2019 broad daylight murder of 22-year-old Jerome Bell, also known in the streets of Toronto as the rapper Murder. Then, in a shock turn of events, while in custody, Flipper was tied to a second murder, the November 2019 execution of Tony Scratch, a reputed high-level mobster. The trial revealed that Flipper and another rapper called YS hunted down and killed Tony Scratch so that they could collect a $60,000 bounty, which they would allegedly later wave around in cell phone videos. The 2 would be caught thanks to critical evidence presented by 2 undercover police officers who just so happened to be surveilling Tony Scratch in an unrelated investigation, and Flipper would end up getting 2 life sentences for both murders. But even though GGG would end up losing their most ruthless soldier, this didn't slow down Top 5, as he would keep escalating petty feuds, putting bounties on rivals' jewelry, and pulling stunts like flushing a stolen chain down the toilet that had belonged to a man called DJ Snoopy.
Give us 7 days to take your chain. I promise you, chain.
You want a cookie?
7 days.
Do it.
Do you want to do this? 7 days. Count everybody watching this. 7 days, Snoopy's not gonna have his chain.
Someone went and got my pendant, man. They got my brother's pen there.
Okay.
Top 5's antics would put him on the radar of one of the biggest media personalities in the American hip-hop scene, DJ Academics, who would begin to invite Top 5 onto his streams, introducing him to the streaming world for the first time and publicly labeling him the Demon of Toronto.
But if y'all don't know, people, we here with Top 5, one of Toronto's finest. You got any? Are you the king of Toronto? You know?
I run Toronto. They know this.
Yo, Chroma says she the first lady, so we gotta find out who's the king.
First lady to get battered. First lady. What's wrong with yo, man? Yo, you gotta live in Toronto to know what's going on. What the
This would lead to many wild moments, like chaos erupting when Top 5 would end up on the stream with one of his biggest rivals, 17 Doovie, which would lead to both of them going back and forth, dissing each other's dead friends.
Fam, tell the world how JJ got packed.
Tell them how your brother got packed.
That's 2017. You know what's up with that.
Yo.
You know what's up with that. You know what's up with that.
Yo.
What's up with JJ?
Yo, do you want me to talk on? Yo, you're a snitch. I'm not even gonna talk on this.
But unfortunately, despite the increasing fame online, Top 5 wouldn't be able to stay off the streets. And finally in 2021, an incident would take place that would get him in so much trouble that he would end up doing the race too and leaving the whole of Canada behind.